Hello awesome folks, I hope your day's going as well as you are. Today we're going to be taking a look at the short story in the Dark Tales collection by Shirley Jackson that we've been doing a deep dive into, the 2017 Penguin Classics collection, which I'm showing to you here, and I'll link you to it in the comments below. This is a 12-page short story called The Bus. The key sort of concept of what's happening with this short story is that our protagonist point of view character is a woman who is coming back from a trip, and she's taking a bus home to her small community. And at night, after she took a sleep pill and fell asleep because she doesn't like riding on the bus that much, it's very disturbing for her, and she doesn't like the people that she travels with, and she finds them all rude and such. She's wakened by the bus driver who says, "I'm not an alarm clock." And I, get off the bus because she's arrived at her destination, and then she gets off, and when she finds she's not at her destination, she's at a different place. Surprise, surprise. And then we'll find out more and more dark things are happening as she learns more and more about the place that she's at. Now, this seems like a horror short story until the last paragraph, in which case it feels like it switches genres to science fiction. So that's kind of cool. And since I review both horror and science fiction and fantasy for this channel, it's still on the queue. And so it's kind of cool. Shirley Jackson is one of the most beloved horror writers of all time, so we're doing a deep dive into her stuff. She'd be on my Mount Rushmore for the 4 best American writers for horror, along with H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and Stephen King. Some of her things in this short story are not horror, but I'm still doing reviews for them anyway, and that's fine. She's Shirley Jackson, right? She's a beloved horror writer, right? I've done short stories by Robert E. Howard, that was one of the most influential fantasy writers of all time, who did the Conan the Barbarian stuff. I did a Solomon Kane series, and there was a short story in there called Blue Flame of Vengeance, which was not fantasy or horror or science fiction. I still did a review anyway. I've also done about 5 or 6 of his boxing short stories too, that he wrote since he was an amateur boxer. He wrote a lot of stories for the boxing pulps during his time. Again, that is not in the genres that we cover. I didn't care. I still did reviews for it, and nobody pushed back and said, "Hey, what are you doing? This is a boxing short story," because it's by Robert E. Howard, right? Taking a look at the things that Robert E. Howard wrote that he enjoyed, that he loved, that aren't the 3 genres, I think that's important. And the key genre that he influenced, I think is important. So taking a look at some of these, I think is pretty cool. There have been several in this short story that have been more of a psychological drama, where we learn a lot about our main characters and so forth. This one's fine. Its world building is nice. Its writing is fun. It's Shirley Jackson after all, and it's pretty cool, and does a lot of stuff. And so I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. We're doing a deep dive into her stuff because prior to this collection, I've only done 2 stories by her. Well, one of those was a short story that I read when I was in school called The Lottery, which I've never reviewed for you, but I would give a 10 out of 10 to. It's an absolute classic. The second is a novel that I did write for this channel. I think I gave it an 8. It was called The Haunting of Hill House, which I read a couple of years ago for spring break. My vacations that I take then. So that was a lot of fun, and I reviewed that for the channel. It was on my bucket list. It's something I definitely wanted to knock it out before I died. So those 2 things were the only things I read, but I've loved them both, and so I wanted to do a deeper dive into two her works. Hence this book I picked up a couple months ago. Again, I'll link you to it in the comments below. Have you read The Bus? What did you think of it? Would you like to talk about spoilers, because I keep this review spoilers free, or did you give it a different rating other than a 7? What did you give it? Let's talk. If you enjoyed this video, hey, why not hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.